Hello everybody, and welcome to our CCNP version 2 Switch course. This is for the 300-115 exam. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Rob, and I will be instructing as we progress through this particular course. This is my YouTube channel, and progressed from CCNA through CCIE. And if you look over my right shoulder, just to the right side of my head, you will see my plaque for that. So everything that we're going to be talking about in this particular course is something that I am pretty much an expert in to some degree. So we're going to be taking a look at various aspects of the Switch exam and how it comes into play and the different aspects to the exam. So before I get into any of the technical detail, what I really want to do is I want to give you guys at least a baseline to start from, because I don't know where you are, and what your background is. So I'm going to give you a couple of bullet points in the next slide, which we're going to get to right now, as to what we're going to be hitting as we go along here. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is we're going to go to the CCNP version 2 Switch landing page. Now I've embedded the link, and I will take this PowerPoint, I'll convert it to a PDF, and then there will be in the description there will be a Google Drive that you'll be able to download things from. You'll be able to go to the Google Drive, download the information you need, and go about it from there. So as I produce videos, I'm just going to kick them up to YouTube and let them go, and you guys can have at it from there. If you are following along with this course from start to finish, if there are things, actually I need to modify that. That's actually supposed to be 15.2. We're going to be, let me go ahead and do that real quick. We're going to be going through various topics. So there are a couple things that I won't be able to do. I won't be able to do VSS on the 6500 series switches or the 4500 series switches, whether it's 6500E or 4500X. I don't have a platform available to me to be able to demo that on, but I will point you in the right direction when it comes to that topic area. I do have a stack of 3750s. You guys can't see them at the moment, but they are available to me, and I will be showing you guys how to go through and basically take the switches, and I will throw a different code on them, and I will actually show you guys how to recover a switch the proper way, so you guys don't have, you can refer to the video whenever you need to and go from there. I'll list the steps in order that you need to go through in order to recover a switch image, in case that you are upgrading the code or you blow the code away by accident and you need to upgrade the code, what you would do to be able to deal with that. And then we're going to take a look at the blueprint, so you know what we're going to be covering. Now, I've seen a lot of information out there regarding CCNP version 2 Switch, and there's a lot of parts to it that really need to be gone over in detail, because there's when you get into a real environment, I work in real environments every day. It is likely that you're not going to be stuck on single-use switches like 3750 or 3850 or something like that. You're likely going to get stuck, be dealing with chassis-based deployments. 6500, 4500. You might even touch Nexus. We are going to touch Nexus in this course. We're going to be touching on some of the viral images that are available to us. So we're not going to be going, I'll talk about some of the switch-specific stuff, like how do you configure a VLAN, how do you deal with trunking. Some of that stuff I haven't vetted, so it hasn't been tested in a viral. We'll see how that goes and go from there. But we're going to take a look at the layer 2 aspects of it, so that if, I've got experience in that area, so we'll take a look at that. And then we'll talk about some of the specifics to like data center switches, like the Nexus 7K. What is a VDC? What is virtual port channels? What is a fabric extender? What does the Nexus 5K? Why would you use that versus a MDS switch? Nothing complicated, nothing super deep. This is not CCNP data center, unified fabric. This is CCNP routing and switching version 2, but I'm throwing in some Nexus for those of you that might touch it. I deal with Nexus on a regular basis now, so we're going to take a look at that. So we're going to be wrapping a little bit of that in there, because I feel like it'll be a little more real world, and this way here I'll be able to play with the Nexus a little bit. Those videos are going to be kind of, they go where they go. I haven't tested anything out, so we'll go from there. And then we'll take a look at the configuration guide. When I was studying for both CCNP Switch as well as CCIE routing and switching for the written and for the lab, I made sure to download the configuration guide for the particular iOS code that I'll be working on. So in this case here, I have the latest code that Cisco's put out, but this is specific to a access switch. What that means is 3750, 3550, 3560, a single use switch that you could use at the access layer. PoE switches in most cases. This is not going to be your 35 or your 4500 or 4507 or 6503 or 6509. Those are going to be the platforms that you're going to see in the core and stuff like that. And if you're curious as to why I'm throwing some Nexus in there, there have been several deployments that I've done recently where I have basically forklifted out a 6500 and replaced it with the Nexus 7K. And, whether it's 7009 or 7010, I've done that so that a customer can, go about their day, and I've deployed fabric extenders and stuff like that. So it's a very easy technology to understand and to roll out. It's just you have to understand what you're dealing with. So in the last section here, we're going to take a look at, and I will come back to this in a moment, we're going to be dealing with Viral 1.0.26. So if you want to follow along at home, feel free to do so. We're going to be using Secure CRT for our terminal emulation. If you don't have that, you can use the consoles built into Viral. That will work as well. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to go to landing page here. You know what? It won't let me do that. Hang on one second for me, guys. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to navigate to that page real quick. You guys can't see it. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to navigate to this stuff. So the quickest, easiest way to do this would be to go to Cisco's website right here. And if you come into here and you click on Training and Events, and you click on CCNP, and then you click on CCNP Switch, the PDF will allow you to get to where you need to go inside of the in the PowerPoint. It doesn't allow me to do that. So if you click in here, this is the landing page. So anything you need to know about the course or the certification is this is where you would come for that. And where you register a peer review to go take the test. You pay X amount of dollars and book your spot. There you go. Some of the type of exam questions that you might see, and we're going to take a look at excuse me. Why did that not work? That's just taking some time. Well, hang on a second. Why is my it is taking its sweet old time. I'm just gonna. Why is that not working? Hang on, let me refresh my page. Okay, so one of the things that I'm not sure if it's Google Chrome or if it's the fact that Cisco's site is just being retarded. But if you click here, this takes you to the Switch specifics. So the Switch exam. Click on here. This takes you there. Don't bother clicking on there. I noticed that the JavaScript says void. So it's not surprising that Cisco's got a dead link on their site. But click on the review the exam topics, and that's really where I wanted to take you. So this is the landing page, and that's the second bullet item in my PowerPoint, or the first one. This one here's the blueprint. So click on the blueprint, and then download a complete list of in the PDF format. So here's where I want to spend just a little bit of time with you guys, so you'll understand where we're going to go with how some of this stuff works. One thing I recommend you do is I recommend you download this. This will be very beneficial as you're moving forward in your preparation so you can keep on track. One of the things that I like to do, and this is just my methodology, is I like to go through and copy all of this into Notepad. So I'll literally just copy and paste this like it is in the Notepad. I'll get, and I'll tab it out kind of like it is right here, and then I'll go look up what is an SDM template. I know what that is, but you may not. So what I'll do is I'll go through and I will know what an SDM template is. And I'm going to be covering each one of these bullet points in great detail, so don't be, it might take a little bit of time for me to get through it, but I will hit every bullet point that's on here and stuff like that. So we'll take a look at it. It's actually Switch Device Manager. It's actually how the switch handles traffic. So like you can turn a switch from just being a layer 2 box, and you can enable IP routing to enable layer 3 switching, but if you really need a box to act like a router, there's a way of changing the SDM template to act more router-like, and I'll show you guys how that works. But there are several different aspects, so we'll take a look at SDM templates and managing MAC address tables, whether that is setting the MAC limits to how long a MAC address can sit in the TCAM, or what the thresholds are. Error disable recovery. So let's say for instance you enable spanning tree port fast, or you enable port security, and you basically enable what they call BPDU guard, where if a BPDU is received in, it shuts the port down. Well, if that's the case, you could actually have the error disable state try to wait a given amount of time that you specify, and then it'll try to re-enable the interface. So it's what they call error disable recovery. Now you have CDP and LLDP, which are basically just discovery protocols at layer 2. You have UDLD, which is unidirectional link detection. What that basically means is if I have a bidirectional path between two switches, maybe it's a trunk link between the two switches. Normally this is geared towards fiber optic cabling, or SFPs and things like that. But in this case here, you can enable UDLD, which will detect a unidirectional link. So like, let's say maybe your send pair is working, but your receive pair is not. That would be an indication that there might be a problem. So take a look at it, how to configure VLANs, and I'm actually going to break it out kind of like this. So we'll take a look at configuring and verifying VLANs. We'll go into some pretty deep detail on some of the different ways you can do that, and the flexibility behind those. What's the difference between a normal VLAN and extended VLAN? And then we'll get into the different types of VTP that's out there. VTP, .1Q, native, and manual pruning, dealing with the prune eligible as well as the trunk allowed list and things like that. Then we'll get into ether channels. How do we full spanning tree to not block links? That's basically what the whole point of port channeling is. And a common misconception is that if you take 8 1 gig links and you bundle them together, that you're going to have 8 gigs of throughput. That is not the case. You will have whatever the minimum link is, so it'll be 1 gigabit, but you'll have high availability, and you'll be able to manipulate how the traffic load balancing will work. But there are some key things that need to be understood about that. So I'll take a look at all this type of stuff as we're going through here and see what's all in there. And again, we're going to be taking a look at some Nexus and stuff like that. So I thought that might be a good option for everybody to see, and then we'll take a look at some of the other options in security. It describes chassis virtualization and aggregation technologies. So it says Stackwise. Well, I can demo Stackwise. I've got a Stackwise cable and two 3750s that have the built-in stack ports. But there's other ways of doing chassis virtualization. You can do chassis virtualization on the ASA with multi-context mode, where you can have multiple contexts, you allocate an interface and some other attributes to a context. You can do the same thing with Nexus with the virtual device context, which allows you to take and carve up the switch to appear as multiple different switches. You could take an iOS XR box like the ASR9K, and you can carve it up into multiple individual routers, also known as SDRs or secure domain routers. You can take a router and break it up into multiple VRFs or VRFs, and that would allow you to take, like, if any of you deal with MPLS, you're buying MPLS service from a provider, whether it's AT&T, Level 3, Deutsche Telekom, whatever. You're going to be able to, on the provider edge side, you're going to be VRFing out your traffic so that customer A doesn't see customer B's traffic and stuff like that. So there's several different capabilities and ways of doing it. It's just in this particular case, they're asking you about Stackwise. So from an exam perspective, that's one of the common things that people do, is they tend to not realize what's being asked of them. So let me put some of these exams into perspective for you. When they're telling you configure and verify switch administration, Anytime you see configure and verify, they're expecting you to know how to configure SDM templates. They're expecting you to know how to configure MAC address management. They're expecting you to know how to configure and troubleshoot and verify error disable state. They're expecting you to know that. Now, they do say right here, and this is why I'm going this direction, it says that the following topics are general guidelines for the content that is likely to be included on the exam. However, other related topics may also appear on any specific version of the exam. To better reflect the contents of the exam and for clarity, the following guidelines may change at any time without notice. In my experience, and this is going back probably close to 5 years, normally the way that they do exams is they're going to test different attributes of every one of these sections. They're going to be testing you on VTP. They're going to be testing you on .1Q. They're going to be testing you on, how is PAGP different than LACP? Things like that. Whenever you see configure and verify, they're assuming that you know how to configure and verify this stuff. No. Now, if you go down here where it says describe chassis virtualization and aggregation technologies, they're expecting you to be able to explain to a customer, to upper management, to a coworker, whoever it might be, that you know what StackWise is. Now, they're not talking about VSS. They're not talking about VDCs. They're not talking about VPC. They're not talking about multi-context mode. They're not talking about secure domain routers. They're not talking about any of that. They're talking about StackWise. So that would imply to me that they're going to test you on StackWise. Now that doesn't mean that they may not throw a VSS option in there, or maybe a VPC question, or maybe you're trying to peer between a 4500 series switch and a 6500 series switch. Is a VSS available between those two? Well, it depends on the code, and it depends on the line card. So those are things that you are going to have to take into consideration. It's not likely that they're going to ask you questions on that because it's not explicitly stated here. But because chassis virtualization and aggregation technologies are they're a very, very broad topic, I would be generally familiar. What is VSS? Virtual switching system. It allows you to take two 6500 pairs, core 1 and core 2, if you will, and then make them look like one from a logical perspective. And I'll explain how this stuff works when we get to that particular section. But that's one of the things you really need to understand. Now, one of the other things I want you to pay attention to is the percentages here that they give you for the exam. 65% of the exam is going to be on layer 2 technologies. So that pretty much tells you out of the gate that you really need to be good at all of the technologies that are listed here. Now, you might say, oh my God, that's a long list. In the grand scheme of things, it's actually a pretty short list. Okay? So we're going to take a deep dive look at this type of stuff, and I spend probably 70% of my time in the layer 2 side of the house and about 30% of my time in the layer 3 side of the house. Whether it's routing internally or routing with the service provider, I do a lot of layer 2 VPN, a lot of layer 2 switching, a lot of layer 2 connectivity. So that's kind of where I'm an expert in things is switching. So we're going to spend a lot of time in that area so that you really understand what's going on. And then it says down here at the bottom, infrastructure security and infrastructure services. So if you add 20 to 65, that gives you 85%. So a very small portion of your exam is going to be this area right here, right? And it says 15% is going to be infrastructure services. They're going to be testing you on configuring first-hop redundancy protocols. And if you notice, there's nothing else in here. Now, are we going to stop there? No. We're going to be taking a look at, it says the switch exam also covers highly secure integration of VLANs and wireless LANs. So there's going to be some things in here that we're going to have to toss in, like DHCP. So they're talking about DHCP snooping. So how do you test that? Well, you got to enable DHCP, right? So we're going to do that and see exactly how that works. We'll take a look at IP source card. How does that look against dynamic ARP inspection? Private VLANs. What are the capabilities with that? So here's our topology for those of you that are interested in seeing this. This is basically what I copied out of Viral. So I am running Viral on the back end, which is sitting right here. So it It is up and running. It is all here. So you are free to literally this is my copy and paste option here. This is all I did is I just took a screenshot of this guy, and that's how I built this one. So if you literally, and I'll include the paint document as well, so you'll be able to follow me along with that. I would recommend you do this. Now, if you have any of the newest releases of Viral, you should be able to do the 20 node license. And I've got, was it 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 boxes. So you could theoretically get away with the 15 node license and be good to go. Do you have to do the Nexus side of the house? No. But I figured because this is a Switch course, it might come in handy for those of you that have to deal with any type of Nexus in your environment. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this was going to look inside of Secure CRT. So what we have here, don't worry about this stuff right here. This is just a bunch of gobbledygook you get from the Viral boxes, which is, you know, it is what it is. Basically, it's a CDP issue, and the problem that we have here, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up because I'm in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We're going to go ahead and drag this over just a bit, and so that should allow every 15 seconds it's so if we do so basically what it's saying here is a CDP message level 4 duplex mismatch. Duplex mismatch discovered on gig 00, not full duplex. Switch is management 0 is full duplex. So what that would tell me is if I was to do a show IP interface brief and do a show CDP neighbors, that tells me that these management 0 IP, so that's the Nexus. So what it's actually barking at here, and I should have noticed that with this guy right here, this is the Nexus. Nexus is going to kick out a weird, this is just the, like the serial number, if you will, Nexus. So that's why you see that. That's easy to fix if you literally come over here to this guy and log in as admin and admin. That'll get you to log in. If you do a show interface status, you'll see up here that management 0 is routed full. So we got it's auto full. So literally all we have to do to come over here to this guy here is it's coming in on 00 is not full duplex. So we could do a show interface gig 0/0. We are auto speed, auto duplex, but if you do a show interface status, we are auto. Now if we come up here, we can, I think if we do 7K can do CDP, so we'll say show CDP neighbors. We're seeing switch 1. We do a show interface status. We are auto. Okay, because it's routed. It's a routed interface. We can do this a couple different ways. I'm going to just go, and I don't want to disable the switch thing because I want to show you guys a couple things on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to do a interface gig 0/0. I'm just going to shut that interface down because I'm not actually connecting on 00. The way that Viral sets up is it doesn't actually do that. It connects on 01 and it goes from there. So I'm actually going to be able to go in here and type in shut. So that should do away with that problem. So I type in do show IP interface brief. That interface is now shut down. If I do write, that'll take care of that. So I'm going to go to this guy. I'm going to come in here and interface gig 0/0. I'm going to shut that interface down. I'm just going to repeat the process a few times and go from there. So interface gig 0/0 shut. So the Nexus switches do work. There is a little bit of manipulation that you got to do with them in order to get them to do what you want to do. They do work off of Ethernet port numbering, so they don't have gig or 10 gig or 40 gig or anything like that, which is actually kind of nice. But at the same point in time, it is what it is, really. Alright, so all of them are good. So now I can get back over here. Now this is named switch. If I go to global config, I type in host name is, N7K1, and then do a if you type in write, you can't write erase, or you can't write map. You got to do a copy, run, start, and then it copies it like that. So that's how you would work with Nexus. So then I come back over here to switch 1, and I come out here to do a show CDP neighbors. What will end up happening is eventually, and the reason why you were seeing those other switches show up is because that's how the console works to get you the access you need. So that's why you're seeing those messages. So that is why gig 0 is tied up and you can't use that because you use that for management. So over here on this Nexus, we can come over here to a show CDP neighbors. You're going to see switch 1 here on management 0. Management 0 in this box is up and running. Now if I come over here and I do, eventually that will time out. And like if I go over here to this guy here and I log in, go to global config and type in hostname is, N7K2, and do a copy run start. And that's another thing from Nexus and ASA. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to type and do anything. You just type in the command as is. So the nice thing is I can do copy, and then it's going to allow me to do that, and I'll be able to go from there. So that's how you would do that. Now, one of the things that it's kind of out of scope of this particular video, but I wanted to talk about it real quick anyway, is this thing known as Cisco Fabric Services, or CFS. So we type in show CFS peers and hit the enter key, you're only going to see yourself. Now what CFS does in the back end is allows you to synchronize certain things like management capabilities and stuff like that. So if I go in here and I type in show interface status, or if I do in this case your management 0, it's actually a management VRF. So I type in interface management 0 and I hit the enter key. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to type an IP address. It's going to be 192.168.1.1/24, and I'm going to do a show IP interface brief. But I have to be specific because that's the default VRF. What I do here, and I do VRF management, bad context, and I do VRF show IP interface VRF management management 0. Oh, management, that's why. Or show brief. Interface brief for VRF management. There it goes. Now the link is up. Now if I go over here to this guy and I do a CFS distribute or IPv4 distribute and hit the enter key, and I do, let's see, there's the other one, distribute, yeah. So I do a show config, or sorry, show run. I have CFS enabled. So now if I come over here to this guy and I do CFS CFS distribute or IPv4 distribute from a management perspective, interface management 0, and type an IP address of 192.168.2.1.2/24, and I do a show IP interface brief VRF management. Now you'll see that. Now if I do a show CFS peers, I see N7K2 now. I see this guy as well. I see .1. If I type in ping VRF management, ping VRF ping 192.168.1.1 from VRF management, I can ping it. I can ping a route from N7K1 to N7K2, or from 2 to 1 via the management domain, which is what I would need for other things to happen. So that just gives you a little taste of what could be. So that's pretty much it that I wanted to cover in the first video. We're going to be taking a look at everything from a high-level perspective, so definitely go check out that if you are... oh, you know one thing I forgot to show you was the configuration guide. So shame on me for not doing that. Let me go back to here. You go Cisco Docs, click on here, and then if you click on this is the main documentation page. So if you hit Cisco's site from here, and then you take this guy all the way down to the bottom, and click on documentation, it'll bring you to the same page. And then if you click on switches down here at the bottom, on the right hand side here, it's going to pop this up. You're going to click on campus LAN switches for access. I clicked on 3750X, 3750X series switches. Come down here to the configuration guides, expand that out, and then click on this very top link. And this is where I copied that link from. So you'll be able to go through here and get that taken care of, and then you'll be able to go through all the different deployment methods. So we're not going to cover every detail in here. We're going to cover the majority of them, though. You know, how do you configure, you know, port best CDP, and then like DCP, and you know, how do you deal with VTP and voice VLANs, and we're not going to get into MACsec or anything like that, nothing crazy, but we're going to hit some of the major stuff that you can do on the switches and go from there. But that gives you a high-level view of what you can do and stuff like that. One thing the Nexus can do, if you type in VDC question mark and you want to go create a VDC, where you type in, let's say we type in, you know, OTV, and you type in, hit the enter key, you've reached the maximum number of allowed VDCs. So you can't do that. So like for instance, if you wanted to do a show feature and you know what features are enabled, you have a lot of different things. In order to do anything in this box, you actually have to come in here and enable everything. If there is a feature that is not available or not showing up here, if you do a show feature-set, it'll show you what feature sets are enabled. So you can do Fabric Path, you can do FEX, you can enable the capabilities. Before you can do any of those, though, you actually need to type in grace period, or sorry, it's license grace period, and that will give you 120 days. And that can, it's a virtual box, so I mean, technically it'll never end. License grace period, and that will allow you to enable some of these other features. So, like for instance, if you type in show feature, you know, OTB is not available. If you do show feature, OTB is not an option that's in here. Actually, oh, it is. Okay. Newer code. So these are going to be things that you're definitely going to need to, you know, just be familiar with and see how they work. So, like I said, we're not going to take a huge look at this. Like if we want to create a VLAN here, this is how you would create a VLAN. If we want to go in, and one of the things that I want to point out to you real quick is show interface brief. You'll notice that everything is routed here. Right? So if I want to change a port to be non-routed, I could go between these two guys and say, okay, and I don't have double links, so trunking here would be kind of redundant here. So let's say Ethernet 2/2. Yeah, Ethernet 2/2. We'll say that one, and we'll go, or that's NK1. We'll say interface E2/2. And we'll type in no switch port. Oh, sorry, switch port. And we'll type in do or show interface brief. Now it's access, but it's still down. So now we have to go in here and we have to no shut it. So if we do the same thing again, you'll see that it's up and it's good to go. And it's going to take some time for it to come up. But if we go over to, say for instance, Nexus 4 and bring that port up, then we'd be able to configure trunks. What I'm actually thinking about doing is adding some links between these guys so that we'll actually see some trunking, and because in order for us to do, let's see, what is it, to do a show feature, in order for us to do like, where is it, LRCP, where is it? Let's see, PACP. See, they really have, on this thing, it really has gone through here and they pretty much handcuffed you. There's really not a whole lot you can do. But we'll go as far as we can with it. And so it's like if I wanted to do, so interface E2/2, I'll type in channel group 1 mode is on, or active. Okay, the LRCP process needs to be started before configuring active mode. So feature, LRCP. Okay, and that would turn LRCP on. Error. Feature set. Let's see here. Oh, sorry. Install feature sets. And you can install FEX and FabricPath and things like that in MPLS. But if we want to do feature, see, is PACP another option? We can do. Yes, it's not even available. See, I wouldn't even be able to do LRCP because it doesn't work. Again, there's a lot of things that aren't available in here. That's why you gotta be. It's hit or miss. So that normally would enable LRCP. If I type in interface E2/2, I type in channel. The channel group 1 mode is active. It's gonna. So it needs to be started. Oh, well, hang on. LRCP. Well, I started the feature. Show feature. No, I guess not. Anywho, I don't want to take any more time, but I'm just showing you how. Because I run LRCP at work on my Nexus, and that's like pretty much exactly how I did it. But again, there's features in here that you may not be able to. Actually, hold on. I wonder if it's a license grace period. And then we try to do feature LRCP. Error. Show license. It's really weird. Because normally when you do the license grace period, license grace period, show license. Yeah, it doesn't show you anything. Show module. Let's see here. We're on 7.2 code, and that's a soup 1, so it doesn't really give you a whole lot of flexibility. Soup 1 is pretty limited. One of my Nexus at work actually has a soup 1, and it only gives you 4 VDCs, where soup 2 gives you 4+1, and soup 2E gives you 8+1. I'll talk about that more in detail later on when it comes to the basics to that, which is basically chassis virtualization. But that's pretty much how it breaks down. So I'm not going to waste any more time on this because the fact that it's so we're not going to be able to spend a ton of time on it anyway. But just be aware of that. So until next time, guys, take it easy, take care. Thanks for stopping by. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.